Rich Eisen, University of Michigan, 6 foot, 198. And when I look at Rich, what I see is a guy that's going to give everything. I'm going to tell you right now, he's got no short area quickness. He can't get out of the blocks. He's probably going to run somewhere between 5.97 and 6.10. That's kind of the sweet spot for Rich Eisen.
Rich Eisen, Michigan.
Come on, Rich, come on. All the way through. All the way through.
I think he's going to like you.
Yeah, show him yours, Kyle.
5.98.
They only had you at 5.98.
I'm so proud of you, man.
Are you?
You know, that's the best form that you ever displayed.
Is that right? You think so?
No, it was. The way you came out, I mean, you changed your form like 3 or 4 times within the race. But the start, Rich, I'm proud of you, man.
See, I love how you say that. I changed it,
You
but
did.
I don't
see your
all the
hands
way
are
through.
open,
All the way
then
through.
your hands are closed.
Oh, okay.
Then you
This is not going to be pretty super slow-mo.
see, watch how you come out low and watch your hands. See, Rich, that's the best you've ever looked.
Okay.
Look where they're coming up to. I love it. What was that?
It was 5.968 to round up to 5.97.
But it looked like Mike was disappointed.
He was because Mike's.
I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm the world's probably last honest man, and I'm going to leave it like that.
There you go.
Oh, he timed it over 6.
World's last honest man.
5.97.
All right, welcome back to G&H's Combine coverage. We have covered all of the position groups, if you're just joining us, and we have gone into some of the particulars about some of the tendencies, strategies, thoughts, narratives. And what I want to do real quick is, as a relative talent evaluator, draftnik, whatever you want to call it, there are things you pick up over time. There are tendencies, practices, strategies, things that at this point in the process are pretty much accepted as common knowledge. There are other things accepted as common knowledge that are absolute bullshit. And I'm really getting tired of hearing about that. So to help combat me having to take time to explain very simple concepts to people that just don't understand, this is me pulling a Jeff Daniels from Newsroom saying, I'm on a mission to civilize. It is my job at some point, at some extension, to say, listen, here's what's what, and this is not, and it's not me saying it, this is years and years of things happening. Right. It just is the way. Get used to it. And we'll start with, draft picks are currency. Accept it. Draft picks are not to be thrown around willy-nilly. So when I hear something like Earl Thomas, who was drafted relatively high and is a great safety. Yeah. Some believe that since Seattle has said he's on the trading block, that potentially maybe he's on the verge in that sort of New England Patriot way of let's shed the excess before it becomes excess. There's a possibility that Earl Thomas might be on the way down. Let's assume he's not. I heard this yesterday. Let's assume that Earl Thomas is every bit the player you think he still is, and that if you need a free safety, that you could get him fixed, done, end of story. I'm telling you right now, because of the one full round appreciation, look it up, Google the shit. There is a full one round appreciation on every single trade that ever happens involving veteran players, at least in the last 20 years. Greatest point I can give you, Randy Moss, who fell, but still drafted in the top half of the first round. In his prime, traded from the Oakland Raiders to the New England Patriots for a 4th round pick. Aqib Talib, drafted in the 2nd round, gets traded this last week to San Francisco for a 5th round pick. Jarvis Landry, who went in the top 50, went for essentially a 4th round pick and a 7th round pick. So nobody gets practical value for a trade. And I don't give a damn who it is. The only exception, top 5 quarterback, top 3 wide receiver, top 2 defensive back, top 3 pass rusher in the NFL. So, if your the name you're chasing is not Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, or let's throw out Russell Wilson.
Colin Kaepernick.
The Colin Kaepernick thing is not going away anytime soon.
He depreciates too. I'm a fan, but he depreciates.
So those 5 quarterbacks, or Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, and AJ Green, Patrick Peterson, Tremaine Johnson, or Von Miller, Khalil Mack, or J.J. Watt. If your name is not one of those, you're not getting the first pick in trade compensation. So, as fans, please take a moment, take a breath. You know that thing where they say before you send out that tweet, count to 5? Count to 5. Because nobody's giving up first-round pick for a position player. It's just not going to happen. It's bad value, and the reason we as fans look at these trades and go, oh my goodness, we got so-and-so for a 6th-round pick. Because draft picks are currency. Literally. That's the way GMs and front offices look at it. Now, another one that really bothers me. If draft value is one thing, wasting draft value is equally as bad. So talking to a bunch of Browns fans recently, and I understand that Browns fans are not the greatest sample size for a level-headed, balanced fan base. There's been a number of quarterbacks that they've wanted to be a bridge to whoever they're going to draft. Most people, nobody was thinking Colin Kaepernick for the Browns. But a lot of people were saying Kirk Cousins, get over it. That's a pipe dream. The number 1 free agent, whether I agree with it or not, is not going to an 0-16 team. Get your head out of the clouds. Number 2, trading for Nick Foles. Hey, while we have a moment, you're a former player.
He's not good.
Okay, Carson Wentz, who's the end-all, be-all to their dreams and hopes and wishes, tears his ACL in week 10.
Yeah.
Okay, what part of this equation says the reigning Super Bowl champions are going to trade away their backup quarterback and reigning Super Bowl MVP when your starter won't be ready until at least week 6? Do the math, people. Wentz can't be ready by the start of the season, therefore Foles cannot be moved. And you heard as much from their GM, who basically said, we'll listen to anything, but it's going to take at least a number 1 and a number 2. And what I just say, you don't give away number 1s unless that guy's name is Colin Kaepernick, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger.
It's Carson Wentz's team down the stretch.
It is.
It's Nick Foles' team right now.
And
he won the Super Bowl. He's MVP. It's his team.
And here's another thought. Let's look at a situation that doesn't need a quarterback right now. Let's say, hypothetically, that... You want to go there?
No.
Because I still like Cam. But
I love Cam.
So let's look at the Houston Texans. They've got Deshaun Watson. And I'm not saying this... I don't want to jinx it, and I'm not trying to put any bad juju on the guy. But let's just assume for a second that they're struggling out of the gate and he's not completely ready to come back. Maybe it's not the right move because he's the guy. So now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably not the best analogy. But let's just assume for a second that they want to shut him down and say, look, you're not coming back until you are completely healthy, ready to go. So put him on the back burner. Now you've got a quarterback need with the Houston Texans, hypothetically. If Nick Foles goes out there and they go 5-1 with the Eagles right out of the gate, Carson Wentz is ready. He's 110%. Everything looks great. There's literally no reason to think that they wouldn't be able to go forward with Wentz.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised in the least to see a situation where you do get 2 number 2s or something for Nick Foles in the middle of the season. They are not trading him to start.
No.
So, coming back around again. The idea was there were Browns fans that wanted Kirk Cousins, not going to happen. Foles, not going to happen. Which brings us to Tyrod Taylor, which ultimately did happen. A.J. McCarron, who has a whole 5 starts or 5 games played, 3 starts, where he did play admirably well, and there's definitely something there to be excited about. There's not a whole lot else in the way of free agent market. I hate to break it to you. Case Keenum, pipe dream, fool's gold. Case Keenum is a marginal journeyman quarterback that got dropped into the lap of a pre-made, ready-to-go playoff team.
Yeah.
You put Case Keenum in Buffalo, Cleveland, or anywhere else like that, and he is not the same player. So throw that out. Maybe he's good. Maybe he goes to Arizona. Maybe he goes somewhere, and he is fine. But Case Keenum is Trevor Siemian. He is Jim Sorgi. He's whoever you want to say. He's just not a franchise guy, which is what these guys are supposed to be. So, putting all that aside, in this particular instance, the Browns get Tyrod Taylor. It actually does make a lot of sense. And there are people out there, I'm not joking. Look at my face. There are people out there who said, after A.J. McCarron sued the Bengals, he sued them so that he could be a free agent. And there are people that are going, hey, the Browns just traded for Tyrod Taylor. Let's go get A.J. McCarron too.
Why?
What is wrong with...
Why?
One thing that I keep saying in conversation with fans that is driving me nuts. Based on what logic? What logic tells you that A.J. McCarron, who just sued his own team for the right to be a free agent, is going to go to an 0-16 team for the privilege to compete? No. Don't double up. Stop doubling up. Unless it's receiver, running back, tackle, guard, maybe outside linebacker and defensive back. There are places you can double up. I mentioned earlier in the show, I would absolutely love if Cleveland came out of this with let's say a Carlton Davis and a J.C. Jackson, or a Josh Jackson and J.C. Jackson, something like that. Corner's fine. You need many of those. You need many pass rushers. You need offensive linemen with position flexibility that can move around. You don't need 2 free agent quarterbacks in the year that they are essentially, figuratively, free agents. So stop it.
Who are y'all's quarterbacks? Kaiser?
Nope. Kaiser's in Green Bay. So,
what?
Oh yeah, John Dorsey, the new GM, he's a savage. John Dorsey is due. John Dorsey is an absolute savage. In one day, they acquired Jarvis Landry, Tyrod Taylor, shipped out Kaiser, and in return got the Green Bay Packers' #1 defensive back. So,
well, all right.
So he's doing well. No, Kaiser's gone. So right now, Cleveland's got Tyrod Taylor. And I said this like a month ago. I actually tweeted this out to the Browns directly and said, do me a favor. Release every quarterback whose name is not Kaiser.
Yeah.
And release every running back whose name is not Duke Johnson. They haven't done that, but we'll get to that later. So right now the depth chart is Tyrod Taylor, Cody Kessler, and Hogan. So both those guys hit the bricks. Nothing personal. I'm sure they're great people, but this team needs something much more than that. Yeah. So don't double up. Don't think that it's smart to double up. And if you do double up, you don't do it in free agency. You do it in the draft, and you do one high guy, one low guy.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I want Saquon Barkley, but I also would love to have Kalen Ballage. So either way, first round, fifth round, something like that. Now, another big one, and this one gives me more of a headache than the draft picks are not currency thing. When you're a fan of a team that trades back, the default narrative is to say, at some point, stop trading back. I know a lot of fans are saying, you keep trading back. Someday, you got to make those picks. And while I agree with that, to an extent, trading back is a dramatically wonderful tool with the draft that makes everything a little bit more malleable. So when I hear a fan say, I don't want them to trade back, I want them to just pick where they stand, you're being an idiot. Okay? I don't know a nice way to say it. For instance, let's just say Barkley's not in the mix. One is quarterback. They take quarterback in 1. Whoever it is, I don't care who you like, just pencil that in. And then you're looking at 4. Now, let's say I'm right, and they go Barkley at 2, Chubb at 3, and now you're looking at 4, and you've got every wide receiver, all but one running back, all but one pass rusher, all but one quarterback. Well, all but 2 quarterbacks. At that point, if you're the GM and you don't love Minkah Fitzpatrick, and you know Derwin James is available 5 or 6 spots later, you see no linebacker worth taking in the top 5, but maybe Tremaine Edmonds is somebody you would take somewhere between 8 and 14. Corner, you could get Denzel Ward there, but it would be a little bit of a reach. So the point is, the draft is not a race to get one guy. It's how do you fit the puzzle together? So let's say that in this case the Browns are picking 1, they get the quarterback. Then John Dorsey doesn't love Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is the slot at 4. If you're looking at Tremaine Edmonds, or you're looking at a Josh Jackson, or a Denzel Ward, or Derwin James, you trade the F back. You go from 4, and here's a fun one not everyone knows. It's called the Bill Walsh effect. Bill Walsh, the coach of the 49ers during their heyday, came up with this theory that instead of doing what like Buffalo wants to do and you go from 21 and 22 all the way up to top 5, you would go in increments. Yeah. Now, to do that, to move up, you're giving away too much. But to move down, like if Cleveland want to go from 4 and get 21 and 22, you don't go 4 to 21 and 22. You go 4 to 6. Get the Jets' first-round pick and the Jets' second-round pick. Then you drop back down again into like Oakland and get their second-round pick. Then you drop back down again to Miami and get their. Now all of a sudden you went from 3 second-round picks to like 7 second-round picks. Right. Then when you go back down to 21, 22, then you use those to move back up again. So if you're a fan that wants them just to get the best player they can, understand there's a value to all of this. The best player they can get might be slotted at 8 through 10, and they're picking at 4. So sitting at 4 and taking 8 and 10, I understand why you think that makes sense. But it doesn't. Not to GMs and not to personnel departments. It does not make sense that way. Learn to accept trading back. Now, caveat here, and the example I'll give, is Alex Mack. The year, I believe it was the year that Julio Jones came in, we were picking high, 6, I think it was, and we traded back with Atlanta so that they could get Julio Jones. Not happy about that. Right. That's still a little sore subject. But as we go down, they keep trading down. And then all of a sudden, you went from 6 to drafting the best center in the league. Now, center in the draft. Now, as it were, Alex Mack is currently probably the best center in the NFL. And I say to that, who gives a shit? You can get a great center in the middle of the second round. You can get a Hall of Fame center after the first round. Yeah. So when you trade back and trade back and trade back, you better be doing it to get someone really good at a position that is difficult to fill, or trade all the way back to trade back up. So, for those of you that basically just rail against trading, you make my brain hurt. So, anyway, with that, I just want to throw it over real quick. We do have some other things that are not Brown-centric that I want to get to. And one thing I've been dying to talk to you about specifically is a couple years ago, we had a situation here in Denver where everyone believed, with the exception of one, that Denver was going to basically throw his own words in his own face. That Denver was probably going to mollywop those Panthers. Now, the entire national narrative was that was not the case. That they were so efficient on offense and they were very stout on defense that anyone was going to have trouble.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to take you through that pain. We're going to skip right over it.
Appreciate it.
Von Miller's beast. But anyway, getting past that, you would think coming into Super Bowl 50 that you dust your shoulders off, you wipe your knees, you start over again. Yeah. But you start where you left off. This was a nasty team for all of that season.
Yes.
And now you've got a situation where not much has changed personnel-wise. We finally get rid of hey, we're going to run out 2 running backs, both of which are not features, but whatever. Right. And we've officially gotten rid of that. So no more Jonathan Stewart.
No more Jonathan Stewart.
And I'll come back around to the elephant in the room, but I do believe that some of what's happening in sort of a cosmic football gods kind of way is sort of the equivalent of the curse of the Bambino. We might have a situation where we're having the curse of the Steve Smith, because of the way they treated him. Everything's kind of gone downhill after that. But you still have Cam.
Yeah.
You lost Kelvin Benjamin. I'll give you a minute on that one. You lost Kelvin Benjamin. You have arguably the best middle linebacker in all of football, and I don't know if he's playing. So, is Kuechly healthy? Is he going to be afraid of concussions? And with what they have, with Christian McCaffrey, it looks like finally they figured out how to use him.
That was one game.
So
it was the last game. They finally figured it out. We'll see if it continues for the rest of the next year.
Okay, so clearly the idea of we're going to get big wide receivers kind of fell through because Funches, I think, is the only one that got left.
Yeah.
Cam is still Cam. Christian is great and misused for the most part.
Yeah.
So at this point, knowing that Carolina has a tendency to focus on the front seven, is there something you think they want or that you want out of the first round? Or even the first 50 picks if they move around?
I want a beast running back.
All right. Beast running back.
First round.
So, beast running back would be featured back, between the tackles, punishing.
Yes.
This brings up something we talked about earlier. Nick Chubb, who is 5'11", 6 foot, 230 pounds, 5'10" maybe. Anyway, the way I describe him, and this is what people that are looking for that, if you're a fan of somebody else, but you want a big-time featured back that you carry the load. Mm-hmm. If, as Rick pointed out, if his knees are good, if it was just an ACL and he's fine, Nick Chubb runs, I describe it as saying Nick Chubb runs with 10% more intensity than everybody else on the field. He has no problem sticking his head down and driving. He's one of... What scared me about him was at first I got the impression that he was no Sean Moreno. Just like I got the impression that Sony Michel is no Sean Moreno. And I really think that that's more accurate than Nick Chubb is. Yeah. Nick Chubb, and I don't have a direct comparison for him, but Nick Chubb runs like he's Marshawn Lynch, but not in a Marshawn Lynch body. So that's an option. And then you guys, if you haven't seen him yet, anybody, if you haven't checked him out, Rashad Penny, who plays for San Diego State, might be the most just raw talented guy that isn't named Saquon Barkley. He's like 6'1.5", 235, 240, and straight up trucks people.
Everybody.
Runs over, through and around if he has to, but if you're in the way and it's faster, he would probably just soon run over you. Yeah. So there are options there. So we've got Carolina is an intriguing scenario. New England can bite me. Yeah, they keep and going back to the trade down thing. Just look at the Patriots. Fans always want to look to the Patriots. Oh, look how they do it. Okay, fine. How many times does Bill Belichick pick where he stands?
Exactly.
He almost always trades back because the guys that fit the Bill Belichick system are not the same guys that everyone projects to go high. And the only exception to that I can even think of is Gerard Mayo, who's a very solid player, retired early, but they moved up to the top 5 to get a guy that no one was thinking about, and he was fine. You've got an intriguing situation in San Francisco only because I don't think I can remember a team that's kind of put it all together so quickly. They basically, ownership before the 2017 season came out put out a press release that basically read something to the effect of, we're going to lose, so just ride it out. We've had success with this franchise. Trust us that we will have it again, but for the immediate future, this is going to be a bad football team.
John Lynch.
And the fans, hey, take note, Cleveland, the fans actually embraced the notion. They said, you know what? We will suffer and be bad to be good later. And they're doing it. They went out and got Garoppolo, which really, for those that are confused about the Garoppolo thing, Garoppolo was the best backup to Tom Brady that Tom Brady's ever had. And Tom Brady went to Kraft and said, look, I love that we got a good player, but I don't like the fact that he's going to take my job soon. So Tom Brady told Bob Kraft, I want you to get rid of him. I don't like feeling the footsteps. So then Robert Kraft went to Bill Belichick, and I wish I was a fly on the wall for this conversation, and told Bill Belichick to trade his backup and the guy that Bill Belichick perceives to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady, and what was going to keep this train running And he said, no, you're going to trade him because I don't like Tom Brady being upset. So Belichick said, okay, all you're asking me to do is to trade him away from this team. Yes. So Bill Belichick called the first NFC West. He wanted Garoppolo on the other side of the country, and he wanted him on an NFC team, which is why Cleveland was never going to get him. And they called up John Lynch, and he said, Garoppolo, second-round pick, yes or no? And Lynch was like, I ain't no fool. Yes. Right. So that's done. You've been collecting. They've been shedding weight on the offensive and defensive lines, starting with but not limited to some of those bigger offensive line and defensive tackles that were eating up a lot of that salary. They have begun to get some players in there. Now, they still have holes, but they seem to be doing it in a nice, balanced way where they've got now Richard Sherman is your number one corner, so you don't have to worry about your first corner being great. He just has to be complimentary. Who's Eric Reed, the other big 49er protester. Eric Reed's a free agent, but I think he'll be back with the 49ers. So they're in an intriguing situation. Oakland is interesting. I don't think in a good way. I love Khalil Mack. I think he's phenomenal. I was on board with him long before the draft process started out of Little Buffalo University. I think Derek Carr is very solid. I've always thought that Amari Cooper was overdrafted, and I don't think Marshawn Lynch is long for it. I think he came back. He did his thing in Oakland. He'll be out before they go to Las Vegas. So Oakland. Oh, yeah. The whole thing about Marshawn Lynch playing for Oakland is because it's Oakland. Yeah. Now, the moment that's no longer his hometown team anymore, he's probably not going to care. So I think they probably might be looking at running back at some point. The team that's probably the sexiest right now, and because of that, they don't have to worry so much about the draft, is I can't believe I'm saying these words out loud. The Rams.
I was about to say that.
Okay, first of all, Rams, just can you do us all a favor? Can you please just sign Aaron Donald and be done with it? He is, without question, the best defensive tackle in all of football. He's barely 6 foot, and he absolutely kills it. And what are you dicking around for? Pay him already. So pay Aaron Donald. They just got, they traded for both Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. So their back end is set. They already had a nice pair of safeties. They did trade away Alex Ogletree, inside linebacker, I believe to Buffalo. The offensive line is good enough. Jared Goff has proven that he's absolutely one of these franchise guys. They did not tag Sammy Watkins, so there's an intrigue there. If I were the Rams and Sammy Watkins isn't necessarily in play, I would absolutely be putting all of your resources into Allen Robinson out of Jacksonville. So there's plenty of things to be excited about this draft. But like I said at the top, as a fan of a team that is often drafting in the top, it's weird to say this, but the story of the draft is the Browns, whether you like it or not. They are making moves. They are doing things. They have the national attention of all NFL fans right now with what John Dorsey has been able to do. Now, the question is, what do you do at 1-4? What you do at 1-4 dictates everything else. Yeah. So, hopefully, and I might get hit for saying this, but I think that the Cleveland Browns are going to trade a few assets to the New York Giants at 2, so that we can take the one player the New York Giants are supposed to get, and that would be Saquon Barkley. And I'll be very upset if we don't do that. And I am getting hate stares from the peanut gallery. So, anything in particular that you want? The one thing they need. Anything else you want to hit before we bow out and are inundated with Kaepernick commentary before we run this out?
No, nothing.
So
nothing pressing I can think of.
Well, one thing we're all looking forward to is we are going to do a live broadcast of some sort from the draft. Now, and when I say from, we're going to do it like from the studio. Right. I'm not going to the draft. Now, there is some exciting news. I don't know if you caught on this. The NFL offices released the last 2 candidates for the next draft. 4 years ago was the last time we had it in Radio City Music Hall. The NFL wants to move it around to different places.
Yeah.
Denver and Cleveland are the two locations for the next two drafts.
Really?
Now, whether you knew this or not,
That's locked in?
yeah, 2020, the two are, which is not, but I'm going to answer that question right here. 2020 is the NFL Centennial in April of 1920, believe it or not. In Canton, Ohio, the legal side creating what is now known as the NFL was signed and put in place 1920, April, in Canton, Ohio. So to me, the logical thing is to make the 2020 draft in Cleveland/Canton, because they're basically gonna image it as it's Cleveland and Canton.
Right.
But do that. Rick off the air actually mentioned that they are already beginning to build the Hall of Fame Village, where they'll expand out the Football Hall of Fame so that you could go to Canton and you can have that whole NFL experience and all that stuff. Which tells me that 2019 is Denver. Now they're not going to announce that until at least after this draft. So fair to assume that in 2018, we're going to do a live reaction show in real time so you can see grown man cussing at television screens. And then 2019, if you're up for it, you and I will be going to the draft to rub elbows and get interviews, get audio, maybe even pull some guests. And then, in addition to that, I will be flying out to Cleveland, staying with some friends, and making a big old party of it, going to see the draft in 2020. I have even told my 6-year-old that at that point in time he will be 8, and I'm going to see if I can convince his mother to let me drag him to the combine, where he will be bored out of his mind.
Yes, he will.
Now, that brings us to one last thing we want to mention, too, before we get to getting out of here, and that is there is big news as we start this endeavor, and we got to give a big thank you and shout out to Jersey, who's producer extraordinaire and host of his own property, who was able to pull, and you don't even know this yet, Will Parks.
Really?
Will Parks, safety for the Denver Broncos, will at some point in the relative near future be joining us, probably even in studio, to talk things about the Denver Broncos and the NFL in general. So from there, I've also been told that there's some things down the pipe that it helps to know somebody who knows people.
Absolutely. Always.
So
it's all about who you know.
So, yeah, in this business, it's absolutely about who you know, not what you know. So, there are some big names, and I'm not going to say what they are. I will just tease you with this. One of them, and we are going to chase this delicately, is arguably the greatest football player at his position of all time, who played in the northeastern region of the country, who had some off-the-field issues and nobody cares, and is a stat filler. And when someone says you are trying to be this kind of player, that's the man they're describing. And if you can put those dots together, you'll figure out who we're talking about. You understand how big of a get that would be. We are legitimately talking about the greatest player at his position of all time. I'm not even going to begin to tell you how we're able to pull that off. So if we get that, we will let you know. We'll promote the hell out of it. Look forward to other things along with FDH. We may even be trying to see if we can organize some sort of a fun little fan-based pro wrestling thing just for the hell of it. So, again, this
pro entertainment wrestling. There's a difference.
So, this property, this endeavor that we're going to, as we mentioned, will be primarily football, basketball related. But when things are good, when things need to be mentioned, we will find a way to do that. So, for Ricardo, Rick Morris, DJ will catch up with you next time. He does have a great workup on quarterbacks we want to talk about. And everyone here at the Triple J Studios.